directly to me by officials within the Republican Party of Nevada. I was an actual invitee to that event.
So yeah, let's break this down. Let's put the tear sheet please up on the screen, and we can talk about this, Crystal. These guys really jumped the gun. He notified the police. What would-be assassin notifies the police? Hey, just so you know, I've got firearms
bringing weapons
in my car. That's actually what responsible gun ownership is. Now, to be fair, he may have broken some laws. The gun laws are very different between Nevada and between California. So, of course, that's also what responsible gun ownership is. But that doesn't mean that you can be describing somebody as an attempted assassin and that they were clearly on like a hair trigger alert because they're also like, oh, he had a fake VIP pass and all this other stuff. He even says, quote, I'm an artist. I'm the last person that would cause any violence and harm to anybody, which is kind of amazing.
The other thing that's funny, he always keeps weapons, but he says, I've literally never even shot a gun in my life. By the way, don't have a firearm if you
I was going to say,
have never
that's actually kind of concerning. Because,
right? And he says, I don't know
own a gun,
anything about guns. I am beyond a novice.
Huh? Okay. All right. Well, that's so we talked about responsible gun ownership. That's not responsible gun ownership.
Yeah, not fitting the model there.
Because when you own guns, you want to actually know how to use it because that's the whole point of gun ownership.
But we were definitely getting a little loose with the definition of assassination attempt here when it's just like, you know, and by the way you know that Vem's story is closer to the truth than the way it was originally portrayed is that he was quickly released on $5,000 bail, and so far no federal charges have been filed. Like if they actually thought this was a real assassination attempt on Trump's life, I don't think that would be the case.
100%. The other thing is that, and you and I were talking about this previously, that Ken Klippenstein just talked about how the FBI came and knocked on Ken's door for the release of that dossier. Like, let's put these two things together, and this is part of the issue where we definitely need more security for Trump, right? Obviously, after we've had these two assassination attempts. But as usual, we should not use it as a way to destroy civil liberties and allow for basically the expansion of this surveillance state and hair trigger idiot police who are arresting people for just having guns and then describing them as having some fake VIP pass when they were literally invited to a rally. Now, maybe did he do something stupid? I'm not sure yet. You know, we need to look at what all the details or charges or whatever are, et cetera. But that's a very different story than arresting somebody and saying that it was a third assassination attempt. Consider the gravity of that language. Here in Ken's case, he was visited by the FBI for publishing a leaked dossier and or statement. That is not illegal. That is not a crime. That is like, there is no reason for them to be involved in that act of journalism whatsoever. It is very reminiscent of a lot of the people in the War on Terror era who actually reported a ton of stuff about FBI problems and screw-ups that happened after 9/11. And that also resulted in them getting a little bit of a visit by the FBI. Yeah. So that's how I see this whole situation right now.
Ken wrote about this on his Substack. He said the headline was, the FBI visited me over my decision to publish the J.D. Vance dossier. He said there was no subpoena, no search warrant, no prior announcement, no claim of illegality even. America's most powerful law enforcement agency wants me to know that it was displeased. It is delivering what many would consider a chilling message. We know where you live. We know what you've done. We are watching. This is how out of control the disinformation and foreign influence hysteria has become. So he, you know, did what no other mainstream outlet would do, which is to publish the J.D. Vance dossier, which was not like a bombshell, but it was newsworthy. The way the Trump campaign vetted him, the things, it was actually very interesting, the things they thought would be an issue for him, which were like some of the better things he's done. Like, oh my God, he expressed support for unions one time. Like, oh my God, he was critical of Trump one time when he assassinated Qasem Soleimani. I'm like, actually, you're making me like this guy more. But that was, you know, interesting and newsworthy. And now he's getting visits from the FBI because he did his job as a journalist and actually published relevant information to help inform voters in this election cycle. And yeah, I'd say that's pretty wild. Imagine you did have, like, this wasn't a bombshell, the J.D. Vance dossier, but imagine you did have a bombshell that was hacked and leaked. And, you know, it's likely that it was an Iranian actor that hacked and leaked that. Guess what?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter where the source is. What matters is, number one, is it true? And number two, is it newsworthy? And number one being the most important thing, because number two is a judgment call. This was true. No one is disputing the accuracy of these content. So imagine you really did have some sort of bombshell information that really could, change the results of the election, really could impact the way voters are thinking about their decision, or have other implications, in terms of domestic or foreign affairs. And news organizations are too afraid of this quote unquote foreign influence operations and getting visits from the FBI to publish it. It's very dystopian.
8 years ago, actually, wow, almost 8 years ago to the day, I wrote a whole story based on WikiLeaks emails about the Clinton Foundation it was from John Podesta's emails about Clinton Foundation donations that happened between like the King of Morocco and all this other like very shady stuff. And, that was based on completely hacked, leaked information from WikiLeaks. It was still a very relevant story. By the way, that was some of the slimiest, most disgusting foreign corruption that I have ever done a report on. And what was wrong exactly with getting that from leaked info? Even if the Russians hacked it or whatever, who cares? Well, why does that matter? It makes no impact.
Is it true?
Exactly.
And that's the other thing.
And then why is the FBI visiting here? It'd be another thing if they're like, hey man, you release his address and you release his phone number and his social security number, like that's kind of a problem. I wouldn't still say it's okay, but like I'd be like, okay, whatever. But they didn't even get into that. They were like, They had no subpoena, there was no reason to do it. There was literally like no justification beyond effectively what is like police intimidation by the state, which I think is crazy. So that's why I think both of these two things really fit together, where we're jumping the gun here and we're making it so that there is a major hysteria within law enforcement, which always gives them the license to do whatever they want and to actually crack down more, harass people, put people in jail, smear them, in public, call them basically an assassin. And you don't necessarily know if any of that's true. How many people are going to watch this segment compared to who originally saw that news and were like, oh my God, this is crazy.
And third assassination.
Oh my God,
this is very sensitive stuff. Like, you can't just be casually throwing out those sorts of allegations because the country is a tinderbox. So in any case, I hope people will watch this segment and others that say there was it was a lot different scenario than what was originally portrayed.
Spread the word.
Yes, indeed.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.